What can you do unto others so that they may be healed inwardly? Although the following things all contribute to the healing of others, they can also lead to the healing of your own depression, guilt, unhappiness, and other negative emotions. Ask God to show you how you need to help someone else to heal. Those who are very scarred emotionally need someone else to assist them in this regard. This includes victims of abandonment and child abuse. God may show you that you should adopt a certain child, or be his foster mother until he reaches adulthood, in order to help him heal from the psychological wounds caused by his biological parents. Asking God for guidance is critical, as certain actions might even cause further harm, rather than heal. The reality is that if people were able to see the consequences of their words and actions a few days, weeks, or even years into the future, most people would not have said and done bad things to others, and would have spoken and done a lot more goodness. Since a person cannot see into the future, he therefore has to ask the one who has knowledge of the future, namely God, to show him which words and actions to avoid, to prevent bad things from happening. At the same time, he must also ask God to show him which words and actions are required to promote healing, if bad things have already occurred. God does this by not only speaking to man personally, but also through his word, which is filled with teachings and examples of every aspect of human life. Have compassion on someone else. The world is full of broken people who desire, or are waiting for at least one person, to take an interest in them. Love your neighbor. If she is a single mother, you can assist her financially. Maybe it is an orphan, to whom you can show motherly love and care. Perhaps there are children from broken homes who even had godfathers, but they were not godly fathers. They are crying out for someone to watch over them, help and protect them. Remember, you are not more fortunate than others. It was not good luck that enabled your circumstances to be somewhat better. You have simply received, and been shown more of God's grace and mercy. You can also show hurting people genuine care and love without hypocrisy. This can help close and heal the inner wounds and damage in their lives, which others have caused. This is exactly what the Samaritan did to the Jewish man who was attacked by thieves. Luke 10 verses 29 to 37. It is, however, important to note that your neighbor is not only a person from another race, but also includes people that mainstream society usually looks down upon. There are, for example, many people with physical and mental disabilities, whose existence is only represented by a mere number, or general description. Many of them were abandoned by relatives, and die nameless, penniless, unwanted, broken-hearted, unloved, without comfort, and even without care. No one took a genuine interest in them. There are also many others, who feel they have nothing to live for, because they have no one to live for. Some people with pronounced disabilities actually die due to a lack of mental and physical stimulation, such as someone talking to them on a regular basis, or walking with them outside their bedroom. Regardless of this lack of personal care, God's love for them is not less than his love for a person not regarded as physically or mentally challenged. He also has a great love for them, and other outcasts of society. Just because man rejects someone or something, does not mean that God also does the same. This picture would have looked much different, if just one person had taken a special interest in them, and demonstrated the love of God to them in a practical manner. people are not mindful of the fact that, just because someone has a physical disability, does not mean that he also has a spiritual disability. The blind cannot see the Son, but can still see the Son of God. They can see Jesus in their spirit. The deaf cannot hear the voice of man, but can still hear the voice of God. The lame cannot walk down a street, but they can still walk in the ways of God. Accept the other person's request for forgiveness. This is what Jesus taught in Luke 17 verses 3 and 4. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother trespasses against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. And if he trespasses against thee 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day he turns again to thee, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him. In so doing, you will free him, and yourself from guilt, anxiety, bitterness, unforgiveness and hatred. Until you have done that, there will always be a yearning for freedom from this heavy burden, in both you and the other person. If you cannot forgive someone else, why must you be forgiven for your own wrongdoing? If you cannot show mercy to another, why should mercy be shown to you? This is indeed what the parable of Matthew 18 verses 24 to 35 illustrates. You also do not have to wait to hear about someone's personal struggles, before demonstrating or telling him that you understand why he said and did certain bad things. You need to realize that the person who hurt you, also had particular reasons for hurting you, because sin is the root cause of his harmful actions toward you. In doing you wrong, he has actually sinned against you. There are often also identifiable reasons for him hurting you, which he might not even have been mindful of. These simply came to the fore in his actions when dealing with you, or your loved ones. This even includes things like his own feelings of fear, pain, and insecurity, which stem from particular life experience. People indeed only see the outside of a person, and not what is happening inside of him. A person who, for example, constantly makes others look small, does so because he himself feels small, in spite of appearing great in front of people. The reason why some are constantly at war with others, is that they are not at peace with themselves. You, therefore, need to accept it when such people ask you to forgive them. Just because Jesus said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do, Luke 23 verse 34, does not mean that if people knew exactly what they did, you have the right to not forgive them. Ask the other person to forgive you. Do serious introspection regarding your behavior and relationships with others. If you know that you said and did bad things to others, it does not mean that you should now go to everyone and bring up old occurrences from many years ago. Some of them might have been healed of their hurt already, such as a jilted girl who eventually got married to someone who truly loves her. It can, therefore, in some instances, actually do more harm than good, since old wounds are being scratched open again. Bringing up bad, old memories means that people relive what they have already been relieved of, that is, the undesirable emotions. It is therefore advisable to only do it if you know that it has caused genuine pain and loss for the other person, which he still suffers from or experiences very strongly, or if it really still prevents you from getting complete peace of mind after many years. Embarrassment and loss inflicted on people during their adolescence and early adulthood, in particular, take long to overcome. In Matthew 5 verse 23, Jesus taught, Therefore if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Express your care or feelings of genuine regret in a practical manner. This can be done through some form of physical touch, washing or massaging the other person's feet, touching his hand, stroking his shoulders, giving him a good hug, or massaging his back, are examples of such concrete expressions. This is especially useful when communicating care and concern to someone who has significant mental or physical disability. In the case of a baby or older child, picking him up, or holding him tight, is even more critical in this regard. If you caused a person to lose certain things, or took something from someone, give him the same thing, something similar, or something alternative back, such as money, an electrical appliance, or furniture. If the person is deceased already, or cannot be reached, give it to his family, such as his wife, child, or parents. In Luke 19 verse 8, for example, the tax collector Zacchaeus said, "If I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold." Be more understanding of the individual. It is interesting to see how people's dealings with a certain person change when they learn that he has some kind of mental or physical illness. There are, however, many other people who present with symptoms of a particular mental condition, but never go for any medical or related assistance to help them deal with these. They were never formally diagnosed as suffering from that illness. Whether you are an immediate family member or an outsider, you do not have to wait for someone to be formally diagnosed with some significant illness before showing more empathy, and being more understanding of the person's behavioral impairments. Tell the person how you feel about him. Make it clear that you appreciate him and his kindness. Tell your daughter, "I love you, my child, thanks for everything you do for me." Although it may be difficult for some, it is very important to focus on the good things, instead of the bad things. Refrain from focusing on the person rather than on any of these harmful deeds, and do not let these actions define your view of him. When thus speaking to him, you will not say, "You are a bad person," but rather say, "It was a bad thing you did." It is a fact that one negative thing may overshadow a great number of positive things. A friendly person's alcoholism may be well known in the community, rather than his pleasant disposition. On the other hand, love covers a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4 verse 8, it is the child of God who must look beyond a person's faults, and see his temporal, physical, emotional and spiritual needs, which contributed to his erroneous actions, and prevents him from moving forward. Minister the gospel of Jesus Christ to him. Explain to him that the reason why people hurt one another is that they themselves are hurting in some way or another. Tell him that sin is the root cause of all pain in the world. He needs to understand that he himself may also cause or have caused someone else significant emotional pain, for the very same reason. This is why Jesus came to heal the world. As the Son of God, he did this by suffering and dying on the cross of Calvary, as God's perfect sacrifice for their sin. By accepting Jesus as Savior, therefore, he can be set free from the chains of hurt and pain, and from the dominion of sin over his life. John 8 verse 36. Address the individual correctly. Call the person mom, uncle, or grandpa, where necessary. In so doing, you rightfully acknowledge the role that the person plays, or has played in your life. It also indicates the necessary respect for the person. Address your own father again as dad, even though he committed gross sins over the past few years, or has been separated from you, due to your parents' divorce. This will serve as an acknowledgement of the years when he raised you, and that he was still there for you as your father. In Jeremiah 3 verse 19, for example, God explained to the Jews his desire that they would call him my father, for that is indeed what he was to them. Even though she might not be your biological mother, you may call the person who raised you as a child, Mom, especially in cases where such parenting was done from a very young age. It can leave her with great peace and contentment. All her sacrifices and expressions of love will then not appear to have been in vain. You must also be mindful of the fact that, despite your father's shortcomings, if he was rich or famous, your disapproval or rejection of him would actually have been much less, due to the increased regard or status you have or could receive, simply because you are his son.